Welcome, kayak anglers, to our video podcast. This episode is sponsored by our friends at Payne Outdoors, no nonsense, straight talk outdoor analyst and custom plastics. Guggen Brothers Custom Tackle, custom made jigs and Ned rigs. Feel free kayaks, pedal, paddle, or power, there's something for everyone. And Yak Gadget, proudly supplying you with American-made kayak fishing accessories and gear. Now, let's join our host, John Rapp.
Hey guys, it's John Rapp with the Rusty Hook Kayak Fishing Podcast, and I'd like to thank you for joining with us tonight with our 22nd episode. Man. So,
pedal, paddle, or power, there's something for everyone.
I think we had some feedback there. It's pretty cool. Got some music kicking there and stuff. But no, anyway, I want to thank you for joining. I got an exciting show tonight. I've got Gene Jensen, the fluke master, on. He's going to take a few hot topics, hot chats. I'm going to put him on the spot, a couple things I'm going to talk to him about. And then I'm looking forward to hearing what he has to say about his time spending with all-world pro angler and one of my favorites, Edwin Evers. So we've got Chris Payne on too, and looking forward to getting with Chris and seeing what kind of tips and tricks he has today. So anyway, I just want to bring on Gene here. Hey Stormy, Randy, welcome to the show. But before we bring on Gene, let's do up an intro video of him here. Fluke Daddy, you are live, raw and unfiltered on the Rusty Hook Kayak Fishing Talk Show. And it seems like we have a little bit of... Man, we... Raw and unfiltered on the Rusty Hook Kayak Fishing Talk Show. Got a lot of feedback here.
Let's see, I don't think... That's weird. Okay, we're good.
Hey, man. So, the hot topics, man. I got a few words I wanted to ask you to talk about. 11/3 of 2021. I know you're wearing that Georgia hat, but another team, you made a post. Tell us about how excited you were for that day when the Braves did it.
Man, they broke the curse, hopefully, from Atlanta or Georgia sports. It's been miserable, and I'm not an NFL fan. I'm definitely not a Falcons fan, but I am a Georgia sports fan pretty much. And watching the Falcons get their tail whipped so many times and losing the Super Bowl, and then I've watched Georgia Bulldogs lose the SEC championship by literally a half a yard. I mean, it's just it has sucked over the last 40 years being a Georgia sports fan. But watching the Braves, I started watching the Braves back in Bob Horner and Dale Murphy times back in the 70s, and the blue uniforms, and just and watched them struggle for so many years. It was just amazing to watch them win and the World Series. Now, I didn't get a chance to see them win it in '95. I was on a mission trip out west, and was so busy, and so I just didn't watch it. So I missed it when they won it in '95. And so it was just neat, and it was really cool to watch it with my son. Jordan is a sports freak, and he gets super, super excited, jumping up and down. He's a pacer. He doesn't sit down during any games. He paces the floor, and always worried that somebody's going to mess up. It was just a blast, and it was fun to watch. Just watch them and watch how they struggled throughout the season and how they peaked at the right time and ended up winning it. It was just fun.
Awesome, man. Well, speaking of some history, and you're talking about curses and stuff, I made a post out talking about some history about our Army time, and I want to thank you for sending your photos for that added to our salute last week. Man, so but what's funny, I know we stomped some familiar territory back in the day, being in the military and the medical field. X-ray techs. I mean, what a great job that you had when you were in the military. Tell us about your Army time and where you were at.
See, I joined the Army back in '96, and actually it was, what's today's date? It was yesterday of 1996, and is when I went in the Army. I shot a big buck 2 hours before I had to leave and go report. So I had to rush that deer home, leave it for my dad, and run and go jump on an airplane and join and get in the Army. And so it's kind of funny. But anyway, so I was a 9-1 Bravo, 9-1 Papa. So I was an X-ray. I was a field medic and an X-ray tech. You had to go through field medic school to get into before you went to X-ray school. So just in case you failed out of one of the hardest schools in the Army, right. You basically, they sent you to Korea and you became a field medic.
Right.
So that was good motivation to do good in that class, in that school.
Yeah.
And I was in training for a little over a year. So it was a lot of fun, just a lot of hard work though.
Well, no doubt. I mean, that I was one of the guys that you had to come and talk to when you were getting your orders to go, and when you got promoted and when you got reclassified and all that from 91 Alpha to 91 or 91 Bravo to 91 Papa. So yeah, excellent. The other option, one thing I want to hit you on, Big Daddy. Your most exciting, or the one up to this point, most memorable time fishing. Name off an experience, because I got one here that I wrote down, and I'm just curious if I might be thinking about the same one.
The latest one was the KBF National Championship, where my son and I were neck and neck the whole time. Now, I wanted to go fish the lake that all the top guys won on. I just knew that I had done enough research and committed so hard to Caddo Lake that I knew that I could get us both a limit every single day air. So I didn't change up and I didn't go there, because my goal was to make sure that I had fish for him and fish for me all 3 days. Dude, that's hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard. And so I actually was fishing a pattern that not a whole lot of people knew about. And talking with him and keeping him motivated during the whole time was a lot of fun. Was a challenge, but a lot of fun. He gets down on himself quite a bit. But we found all our bass on bluegill beds.
Nice.
And it wasn't that there were bluegill on those beds. It was that the bluegill had spent the whole summer spawning there and fanning the beds out all the way down to hard bottom. And the bass, that was the only hard bottom outside of the cypress trees. And so you could side scan them, see fish on them. Those weren't bluegill 100% every time they were bass. Turn around with a chatterbait and wreck them. I mean, just 3 or 4 or 5 fish and go to the next bed and go to the next bed. We had 49 beds marked by the first day of the tournament.
All right.
And had a blast.
I'm going to have to write this down. When I had Corey Dreyer on, he was telling me, him and Jody Queen were telling me I had to learn to throw a chatterbait. So now I want you to tell me what episode the Fluke Master has on his chatterbait techniques.
I think I've got 2. I've got a short and I've got an old one, and I'm going to do a new one this next spring because I've learned so much more about chatterbaits. Yeah, they got so many different ones out and that kind of stuff. But I think I have 3 total. You'd have to look.
Okay.
Yeah, it was funny. The first day, all you had to do was slow roll it through those bluegill beds and just bump the edges of the beds, and they would take it all the way to the back of their throat.
Oh wow!
I mean, they wanted it.
Yeah.
And I'd mess around with colors a little bit, but they just needed a light color like white or whatever. And then second day, they weren't hitting it on a slow roll. They were bumping it, but they weren't hitting it. And so I changed and started yo-yoing it, and I just pop it up about 1.5 feet off the bottom and let it sink back down on the slack line and watch my line. And again, they started choking it to the back of their throat. And so I caught 30 to 40 fish a day doing this. And then on the third day, I noticed it, but it didn't click until Jordan told me that he had caught a fish, and what it was, or told me how he had caught this one fish. And what it was is I found out that you had to jerk it all the way up to the top of the water column. So the fish were 6.5 feet deep. So you had to jerk it all the way up, and they would follow it up and hit it on the way up. And again, all the way to the back of their throat. But any other way, they weren't going to hit it. They were just swiping at it, knocking it, and they weren't getting it.
Huh.
And so Jordan's fish had literally come 2.5 feet out of the water with the bait in his mouth and came back down. And he's like, "Dad, you'll never get." And he got it on video, and he's like, "I got this fish."
Sweet.
And that's when the light bulb went off. I said, "Dude, we've got to start stroking this chatterbait." And that's what we did. We'd stroke them, and again, another 20 or 30 fish a day.
Well, and, I mean, top 25 finish for you guys. I mean, what, 25, 27? Yeah. I mean, that's outstanding.
And the only bad thing about that area is that we only had one spot that had decent 20 inchers on it. He caught 2, I caught 1, and it was a bluegill bed that may have had 9 holes in it. So it wasn't a very big one. It was just little. Right. And the ones we were used to fishing were 75, 100 yards long. They were huge. The biggest bluegill beds I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
They were just acres and acres of them, and we were just picking the fish off, and using side scan. Live scope really didn't work great. I used live scope to position my boat to the bluegill beds, but not to the fish, because they were down in the holes. You couldn't see them.
Hey, that had to be exciting. I mean, I got my boy out there, and I've seen him catch a fish or two. He's not into it like your son. And my other boy who's in the Air Force, he's not around for me to get out with. So, but that just had to be, I mean, such a great feeling that, standing next to him up there, knowing his name's going to get called, he's going to get a check, a trophy. I mean, yep. Wow, outstanding.
Yeah, it was good, and it's always a competition between me and him because he's so competitive. And everybody's like, "Well, you going to let your son win?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to let him win." I tell people, I said, I'm going to let him beat my best. I don't want to give him a win. And I tell this to anybody: if you're fishing with me in the tournament and you want to beat me, you're going to have to beat what 100%, 110% of what I give, and then be proud of it, because I don't want him to be kind of proud of me letting him win.
Right.
I beat him by 1/4 of an inch, and he hates me for it. Oh, it's so funny. And me being me, I'm always rubbing it in. So.
And I will continue until he does beat you. It's motivation.
Yep. It is.
Edwin Evers, man, what's up? What's going on with Edwin Evers?
He's got his foot in a kayak a little bit. He's sponsored by Bass Pro, so he's got one of those giant Ascends, and he's put some motor guide on them and on it and everything else. And while I was traveling prior to the national championship, I was down pre-fishing Caddo, and I'm like, and me and Edwin had talked at the Classic and then again at ICAST about me coming by sometime during the year. And so I knew where he lived, and I was like, it's about a 5.5 hour drive. I can pull 2 or 3 days out of my trip and out of pre-fishing to go up and spend some time with him. So that's what I did, and it just happened to coincide with him getting these 2 kayaks.
Awesome. Well, I got a couple videos, man. I got a couple videos queued up here. I'm gonna throw these up here for the guys, and the first one's going to be you with him. I'm gonna hit play here. It's gonna play in the background.
The biggest thing with kayaking though is, this is mainly for new guys with new kayaks and stuff like that.
I'm new.
Exactly.
I'm super new.
Don't over rig it, but without trying everything first. So try one thing at a time. Say, okay, I want this right here. And as you add more and more things, you got to find room for more and more things. Let me grab something real quick. We're just going to flop this back here. This is a black pack. But
so who makes this?
Yak Attack makes this one.
Okay.
And we used to make them out of milk crates, and people still make them out of milk crates. PVC pipe zip tied to a milk crate will do this too.
I've seen those in YouTube videos.
Yeah, and they're a lot of fun. So this is my tackle box, but it also holds my rods. So imagine having 2 or 3 rod holders off of both sides, and so you don't want anything sticking out. this way or this way. You just always think about your back cast. So if you can position all your rods to go straight out of the back of the boat and straight up, you'll never have a problem unless you make that front forward cast.
So Gene, they just got to watch and hear the video there of when you had when you were talking to him about when he was setting up his boat. And so, I mean, that 1 minute, he's like, you're talking about kayak fishing and said something about new, and Edwin goes, I'm new! Oh, I mean, it puts butterflies in my stomach, man. I mean, so did you get to help him more after that, or did you, what was his, I mean?
He spent 2 days picking my brain. And that's what I love about him and a bunch of the other pros is they will pick your brain to death to learn when they feel like, and every angler knows something different than every other angler. We all fish different. So he was kind of picking my brain about kayak fishing. And I was talking to him about kind of how to rig up a boat, but how to not do it so fast that you screw things up. Oh, and so, you know, I've spent a lot of times going one thing at a time. Where am I going to put this? Let me go test it out. Let me make sure it's okay. And if it's not, then, you know, then we'll move it and do everything else. Because and I was explaining to him, you know, limited space, how you can reduce what you have in your bass boat. Because I do it all the time. I have a bass boat and I have my kayak and I fill them out of both. And I'm always going back and forth. So I talked to him about how to reduce the amount of tackle, but still have a lot of tackle.
Right.
And still have a lot of options and that kind of stuff. So it was fun. I mean, if anybody wants to go see that full video on this channel, it's well worth it because I drop a lot of secrets. Not really secrets, but just things I've never covered about how to rig them.
Yeah, I'll make sure that I add some of those links that we talked about pre-show that are out there. And if you have any of them on your page, we can add yours on there. But I think most of them are on his Facebook page.
Yep.
But let's go. I'm gonna run this other video, and this is the most recent one he dropped just 4 days ago on Friday, when he was talking about when you guys are talking about finding fish.
If you're a tournament angler, if you're a guy who wants to get into tournaments and stuff like that, I did something that totally changed me from being able to just go out there and piddle around and catch a fish every once in a while to being successful nearly every time I was on the water. And it changed my outlook in fishing. One, and a lot of you new fishermen, and even those of us who've been doing it for a while, we get caught up on the bait. We get caught up on what did you use. You know, for me,
everybody thinks there's a magic bait.
It's right. There's no magic bait. The thing that changed my life when it came to fishing and changed the career was I decided to focus solely on finding fish. I spent 2.5 years literally just teaching myself how to find the fish. And when I started doing that, when I made the number one priority when I get on the water, no matter whether I've been on the lake or not, whether I fished yesterday or not, my number one priority is get there, sit down, and go look and find the fish.
So that video just run, big guy, and I'm sure everybody will 150% agree with you about don't worry about your bait, get out there and find fish first, you know. And I guess, I mean, guys that are new that don't have a graph, is that something that you utilize when you're doing that?
Oh yeah, that and just observation. You know, what do you see around you is the biggest thing, and that really did change my outlook on bass fishing. And I had been fishing for 15 years before I was like, wait a minute, I got that goal in my mind where I wanted to be successful every single day I'm out. And success for me is getting bites. You know,
right.
1 bite, 2 bite, whatever. You know, finding the fish. And so I was just like, I'm just going to spend all the time I need to get good at finding fish and get to the point. And I started to notice things like, if I'm catching fish, what kind of area am I in? Look on the bank, and there's birds on the bank, and there's bait fish ticking, and it's a lot of activity. And I'll be in another area, especially in the fall. You can tell the difference big time because everything groups up. But you'd be in one area that's just dead. You're like, I'm here for 30 minutes. I haven't seen anything, and I'm like, I'm out. I gotta go. And the thing I didn't share in that video was that I've gotten to the point where I recognize that a lot faster than I used to, and I'm gone. And it increases the amount of fish I catch because I'm always looking for those productive areas. You lose confidence in something, change. Just like that. Don't try to beat a dead horse. Even with baits or anything else, don't try to beat a dead horse.
You know what? I think, speaking of beating the dead horse, I believe it's time for us to take a quick little break here. And then I'm going to bring on Chris Payne, talk with him for a minute, and then we're going to bring you back and we'll just do a three-way on, I think we decided earlier today, kayak rigging.
Yeah, so might as well.
Yeah, going with your video with Edwin, we'll talk about some kayak rigging. So let's take a quick break here, guys. We're going to jump off here hit the sponsors. Let Gene get him a drink of water. I mean, that man's been talking some serious kayak fishing.
This episode is sponsored by our friends at Payne Outdoors. No nonsense, straight talk, outdoor analyst, and custom plastics. Guggen Brothers Custom Tackle. Custom-made jigs and Ned rigs. Feel-free kayaks. Pedal, paddle, or power, there's something for everyone. And Yak Gadget, proudly supplying you with American-made kayak fishing accessories and gear. Now, let's join our host.
All right, we're back. And my boy from Payne Outdoors, Chris Payne, is sitting in the background. It looks like he's all alone in his truck, getting dark out there. I'm worried about them muggers trying to sneak up on him. So let's bring on Chris here. Intro time. Hey, buddy. Live, raw, and unfiltered on the Rusty Hook.
Did you forget your name for a minute?
Oh, I always forget my name. I'm old.
Oh, what's going on, John?
Hey, not much, man. So what's cooking, Big Daddy? How you been today?
Busy, but it's good busy. Things are still hopping at the hospital, and bait business is still just shipping out orders. So.
All right, we're back. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Wow, it is weird. Just some feedback, serious feedback tonight. I mean, there's some serious. I don't know. It's like a delay in audio back here. But yeah, hey. So what? I saw you throwing down some Texas Tech critters there on your page. What do you got going on there?
So TikTok has been blowing up for me. There's a lot of interaction on that, and there are a lot of anglers that are starting to get on that. And so basically all I've been doing is doing stuff like I do every now and again here, is just letting people in on the bait making process. And sometimes people will be like on that, and there are a lot of anglers that are starting to get on that. And so
that is weird.
Stuff like I do everything. Don't know what that is.
I have no idea.
So
I hear you, man. Live, you're good.
Okay. So basically, what we're doing with that is just people will pop up and be like, "Hey, because I wear a Texas Tech hat. I'm an alum of Tech, and wear a Texas Tech hat in a lot of my stuff because it's my grab and go hat, right? When I'm not doing branding and wearing my own labels and stuff, it's a Texas Tech hat. And so a lot of alumni are starting to kind of be like, oh, okay, this is a Lubbock kid. And they're like, when are you going to make a Red Raider bait? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it this weekend. So I shot that. I had quite a few requests for it and shot it, just showing people, we can make basically any color that you can dream up.
Yeah.
With the right equipment. And so that's actually, I have 6 colors right now that were not in my original group that were all suggestions. People are like, hey, they don't really make this color anymore, or this is a discontinued color. So Combat Green is a discontinued Berkeley color that used to be called Camo. That was suggested. Candy Bug is a copy of one in a Bass Pro bait that somebody wanted. And you know, I do all right with matching that kind of stuff. And then we have people that contact me that are like, I want you to make this bait for me, and you can't tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
I'm the only one. And so, you know, we have fun with that. So the bait making business is going good. It's, you know, shipping out baits all over the U.S. In fact, I shipped out an order to one of our viewers here, a West Virginia guy, to Heath Mullins this week. So
Heath just made a comment on here. He said, "What's up, guys?" Yeah. So Heath, it's coming to you, Big Daddy.
Yeah,
the man has got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I sent him the tracking info, so he should have it for the weekend if he decides to fish.
Speaking of which, I'd like to congratulate you, Heath Mullins, for winning the Angler of the Year with the Southern West Virginia guys. So congratulations on that. Saw that post and really happy for you, man. Congratulations, because you took out some big dogs down there. So well done.
He sent me a picture of that trophy, that Catchboard style trophy that Catch designed for him. That's a sweet trophy. I really do.
Yeah.
But you know, so I appreciate the time and everything, but I know that we were going to talk rigging with Gene. I think there's a lot to cover there. So if he's ready, why don't we just roll right into that?
Well, let me check. Gene, are you there, baby? I see you got your mute mic'd. Your mic mute. Let me bring on. Get the fireside chat. Here we go, Big Daddy. Get you guys on. I am going to delete me. I don't need to be on this.
Delete.
Hold on, let me get me back out of here real quick and get into the Discord so I can hide my video. Just so I have you two pretty fellas there.
Oh, is there somebody else joining? So, you know, Gene, I know you've been talking with Edwin about it and all the different stuff. I think one of the things for me that I think this is super timely is when I'm thinking about next year's boats, Black Friday, I usually start looking at fish finder videos. It is clearance season on fish finders because the new stuff is going to come out, and if I don't need the newest of the new, but I want to maybe upgrade the side scan, or I want to go to, you know, a 360 live, or, you know, something like that. This time of year, especially Black Friday to Christmas, man, I can find some fantastic deals to get me started on next year's boat. Are there, so let's talk about, like, are there particular times a year you look for different things for, you know, specials or anything, or you just wait till you get a boat and then go grab all your stuff?
Are you there, Gene?
Yep, I'm here.
Can you hear Chris?
Nope, not at all.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay,
could you hear?
I'm
You could.
asking Gene questions.
No. Well, I mean, heck, that's weird. Hey, Chris, log off and jump back on while Gene talks about that. Gene,
Yep.
what Chris was talking about, man, he was asking you about Black Friday and all the electronics that are coming on sale. Is there anything that you would grab that's last year's model to put on your kayak for next year? That's summarized, but that's sort of what he was talking about.
Good gosh. Let me think. I really want to try the new Lowrance forward-facing sonar, just to see what it's all about. I've got Garmin's on mine right now. Actually, I've got Garmin's on one. I've got Ray Marine as my backup because that's what I've used for the last couple of years, and I just want to see what Lowrance is all about. What I've seen so far has been decent. I just don't know much about them. And so that'd be something I just want to put on there just to try if you're talking electronics. And I want to try the new power pole I didn't even know a new power pole micro was out. I've had the same ones for years.
I haven't heard about that. Huh.
Yeah, they got some new ones out. But mine are the first ones that had the battery pack on there, and they're still running strong, so I really haven't paid any attention.
Chris, can you hear him all right now?
Mm-mm.
I can hear Gene fine. Gene still doesn't have me.
Can you hear him, Gene?
I see two little blue squares going in a circle. Is all I see.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got both of you on the screen, but so folks, we can hear them, and I know it's broadcasting. Both of them are broadcasting, but they can't hear each other. So Gene jumped off and he came back on. So
give me a second.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, it's.
You may have to moderate there, right?
I'm trying, man. I summarized your question to him there.
So let me while Gene's jumping back on. So let me talk about this a little bit. So I love Black Friday deals for finding new stuff. Like
that's better.
I'm looking for Gene. You got me now. Yep. No. Maybe no.
I don't think so.
Kind of movement. No, I don't think.
Can you hear me? I can't hear Chris.
Yeah, we hear you, man.
Okay.
So here's the thing for the folks at home.
Yeah, I don't hear Chris at all. I don't know what's going on.
I love Black Friday for finding good deals on fish finders. Like if I want to upgrade from a 7 to a 9 or whatever that is, I've got to be at Bass Pro Shops or Cabela's or Shields or Academy or whatever you got to find those deals.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest tip I can give for rigging before you drill holes is take like some masking tape or electrical tape or something like that. Sit your butt in the seat of your kayak and reach forward.
You want me to log off and log back on, see if it's me?
No, you're good. No, I'll tell you what Chris is telling everybody there, he's talking about before you drill holes, use some masking tape and mark your areas. So, can you hear him, Chris?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Okay. So, Gene, I'll try to, when Chris says something, I'll try to fill you in on it, but he can hear you. I don't know what the issue is. Weird. Anyway, but what Chris was talking about was the Black Friday sales and buying a unit, and before you start drilling holes, is take masking tape and mark the areas that you would do. Am I right with that, Chris?
Yeah, and here's the thing with it. Like, sit in the seat and reach as far forward as you can and as far backwards as you can.
So he's talking about sitting in the seat, reaching as forward and backward as far as you can. So.
Yep.
And mark it with that tape, and then don't mount anything.
So I'm gonna mute just for a second because I'm gonna try.
Okay.
So don't mount anything in front or behind of that tape that you put that you're gonna need to get to while you're on the water. And that'll save you a lot of heartache. I've seen a lot of people drill holes and not be able to reach their fish finder because they mount it too far forward.
Right,
or
hard
get up out of their seat every time.
Even make it hard to see, and especially if you got like one of those Lowrance touch screens, you have to use you got to touch it. I mean, you can't just. Yeah. Well, I guess they're all touch. You got to touch buttons instead of the screen, but yeah, that's a good point. I know I've got the old Lowrance touchscreen 7-inch. It's going on about I'd say 4 or 5 years now that I've had that. I've upgraded the software, but the software last upgraded was in 2019 for that unit. So it's time to put that one on the side and get ready to move to a new unit. And you guys, you guys are worlds above my knowledge. A fish finder for me is just finding brush. And I'm listening to Gene over here talking earlier about how he can look down at a little rock hole that they've made a bed, and he can see fish laying in a bed. It just astounds me. I mean, wow. No wonder I get my rear end whooped out on the trail all the time. I'm looking at a tree. There's a tree. Okay, there's got to be fish around that. I'm not even trying to figure out where the fish are.
Yeah. Chris is 100% right. You gotta sit down in your kayak on dry ground while you're trying to figure out where things go. It's and I don't like to have my fish finder too far away from me. And so my problem with Bonafide coming out with the new pedal drive, I don't know if I'm going to like it because I love my fish finders between my feet.
Right.
Because I can pick up and I'm constantly adjusting them and constantly playing with depth and contrast and things like that to be able to see those fish. And so having it off to the side where I've got to reach over my belly and I can't lean forward very much. I'm kind of chubby. It's hard to get to them, and so that's one thing you got to. And the biggest thing I always tell people is there's got to be a spot for everything, and everything has to go back to its spot. And if it doesn't, then what happens is you catch a big fish and you lose it because something gets in the way. And so I don't like things along the side because I want to be able to fight fish on both sides. Everybody knows about my Ninja net, the leverage landing net behind me. How fast I can get it out? It's because everything's in the right spot. I can get that net out in 0.7 seconds and land a fish.
So you've got everything set up that if you were fishing blind, you'd know everything is.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
100%.
Right. Dirty deck or clean deck?
Usually a clean deck, unless I'm pre-fishing, and then I usually have more than I need rods out in front of me. But if I'm in a tournament, maximum number of rods sitting between my feet is 2, and so usually just one besides the one I'm fishing with.
What, Chris? That was an awful animated no. Why are you disagreeing with the fluke?
No. So I am a clean deck. I won't even go 2 rods. Like I am a 1 rod only, so I can get it out of the way because in my big rig, I've got a 32-inch catchboard, right? Always the Optimist, and that thing actually slides down under my seat behind me, and it's on a leash, and so I can slide that out into tank well, and I need that deck clean so I can rotate board diagonally. Lay that on the bottom, and I got the gunnels to protect myself. Because if I put that catchboard in my lap, that fish has got a much better chance of getting away, even with.
Oh yeah.
But if I put my net
Gene,
outside the bump board and that bump board diagonal, woo,
could you hear him? Could you hear that?
I heard part of it on delay while I was listening I'm listening over on your the live cast. Delay.
Oh, I got you. Well, so yeah, okay. Well, he's talking about. He keeps his deck clean because he's got that big catchboard and he don't want putting it on his lap trying to measure a fish.
Yeah, he measures on the floor. Again, if I lean that far forward, my belly pushes up and I can't breathe. So I have to measure on my knees. And so I have a catchboard, but it runs along the left side over here on the left side, and I just pull it out, lay it across my knees, and I can count on one hand how many fish have flopped off of the board in the last year. And so I don't lose a lot of fish up there. I did have 2 16-inchers flop off the board, or 15 inches flop off the board in the national championship, and that's the most in a long time. Luckily, none of those would have made a difference at all anyway. But those little ones love to flop.
Well, it's amazing. Guys don't realize that's the difference between a win and coming in 40th place. You got to fish clean, and keeping the fish after you've caught them and got them in the boat, keeping them in the boat and getting that photograph is so important. Hey, Jody Queen says, only thing closer to me than my electronics is my throttle for my torpedo.
Yep. So I have a pretty cool little setup. That new double header that Yak Attack has that holds it's supposed to be a paddle holder, right?
Right.
And so I have one on the right side that holds the pole that has my transducer for my live scope on it. and you're able to take one of those the what do they call them? Jody, you'll be able to tell me exactly what the base mount for all of the rod holders. Oh gosh. Anyway, put it over on top of that. Use that instead of the way they have it mounted coming from the package, and you can mount a rod holder or anything else. But that's where my throttle goes, and so yeah, it's right here next to my hip for that Torqeedo.
Yeah, it's basically the faceplate that they use to mount the head unit of a fish finder, right? That you mount your okay. So
it's totally slipping my mind. I'm not supposed to forget things like that, but I'm horrible with names. And when I'm pre-fishing, I have the 1103 on the back and a Motor Guide XI3 on the front, so I can go for miles and miles and miles and cover a lot of water pre-fishing.
Excellent. Well, guys, we've run 40 minutes live here tonight. Anything y'all want to share before we sign off?
I'll let Gene go first.
Hey, Gene, when
I'm
you
waiting
hear
on Chris.
he said, you'll hear in his delay there, he says, I'm going to let the Fluke Master go first.
Okay, I'll go first.
All right, Daddy.
So I want to kind of share some new things I've got going through my mind that I'm going to try this year, and mainly for my fans. I want to do a whole lot more live from the boats. So I'm going to start streaming. I'm going to look into the details of what I need to do to stream from my boat. And it probably won't be the kayak to start with, so I can work out all the bugs on when I'm on my big boat. I want to start live streaming from my boat multiple times a week, along with making videos and that kind of stuff. So I think that ought to be pretty cool. And basically it'll be like me guiding from a boat, but you guys don't get to catch a fish. I do. It'd be pretty fun.
It's funny that you would be talking about that. I've been looking at that as well. I've been looking at those the little square 4G units that you can get from your cellular provider. But the only bad thing, and you may have more choices down there, being from Georgia, a bigger area, but AT&T, you can get 50 gigabytes, and if you're streaming, I guess you just have to pay attention to the bandwidth that you're using and how much you stream at one time. Because I've thought about taking my little portable studio I got here in my son's office and moving it around when we go to tournaments and do live feeds from there or at iCast, and not have to use the internet that everybody's using, and
Yep.
But I don't know if you've been on Twitch any or not, but there's a bunch of people that do a bunch of live streaming day in and day out. Some guy down in Florida who does off out on the ocean, he'll stream for 6-7 hours a day, and I know they're using one of those cellular units. So that's something to look at. And if I find something that's interesting on that, I'll let you know. My IT boy back there, he's working on that for me. So, what else you thinking of, man?
Well, that's the biggest new thing. The other thing I'm going to do, I'm still debating on my head how many tournaments I actually want to fish next year. There's so many options these days, and I'm not sure if I want to focus on it 100% next year. And then again, the problem with me is when I go to tournaments, and it's obvious with the national championship, I started pre-fishing for the national championship, and nobody saw a video for a month and a half.
Right.
Because I'm 110% when I do things like that. I'm like, I've gotta give it 110%, or I don't feel like I earned whatever I did. I feel like I'm giving myself a disadvantage. Plus, there's so many good anglers in the kayak world right now. I always want to be in the top 30, because I know that it's going to be dumb luck that I'm ever in the top 5. And so, because I'm a dink fisherman, believe it or not, if I'm not on my home lake catching giants, I'm catching small ones everywhere else I go.
No, I don't believe that for a bit.
But yeah, it's that's one of the things I'm considering. But I really don't want my videos to suffer whatever I do. So I just want to bust out a bunch of content next year, and show support for my sponsors and just amp it up a bit. I finally am to the point where things are looking good. Not, financially, I'm not struggling, and my wife is happy. We're barely paying all the checks, and plus we have a little extra for fun stuff. But other than that, I'm never going to make $1 million doing this. It's just going to be, I'm going to make sure that the money I'm getting in is going to keep my wife happy, so she'll let me do this, for the rest of my life. So, but other than that, I don't know what else going on. So. Well,
I you know what, for somebody with your status in our field, and for somebody like me that we've met in crossing and passing over the past 4 or 5 years, just like Chris. I mean, me and him developed a friendship 6 years ago. I think it's amazing how you can connect with people in just a short period of meeting with them. And Chris has come on here. I told him what I was going to do. He's like, well, I'll help you. And I'm like, I appreciate that. I'm not a social media magnet like you are, brother. This is only my 22nd episode. I've got 200 followers. I think Chris, he was like, for the first 6 weeks, I didn't even have a name. 7 weeks, I was just the unnamed kayak show. The only reason I went with Rusty Hook is I went out fishing one day and I had a Ned rig all hooked up on a pole, and when I went out to throw it, I looked down at it, it was rusty, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that'll work with me. Rusty Hook. But I appreciate you coming on the show. Hang tight for a second, and let's let Chris do a run off here. Hey, buddy.
Hey. So, yeah, real quick. I think, there's something that I use in business that I think applies to fishing quite a bit, and I would love to see more people adopt it because I'm doing it myself. And that is, you can have excuses or you can have results, but you can't have both. And
very true.
The guys who always have excuses rarely have any results. And so I think what Gene's talked about, you got to go all in if you're going to fish these big tournaments and pre-fish and do all of this work to get the result. You can have all the ego in the world and it can be on your home lake and you can expect to show up, but it only takes one little nuance to throw off your game if you don't have a plan B, C, D, and E, and you only get that through putting in the work. So be a put in the work guy to get the results, not I need to come up with my 6 excuses. These guys that have lost more fish than they've caught, flopping off the boards, I'm about done hearing that noise. Do something about it.
Yeah.
Put your net by your bump. Put it in the floor. Figure out a different way. Do something. But if I lost the number of 10-pounders on boards that these other guys had done, I'd be checked into a mental asylum. It's insanity. Do something about it. Be about it. Go get some results. Have a Merry Christmas. Go buy your fish finder on Black Friday that you've always wanted to try. Spend the money, put in the work, get the results. I'm out.
Awesome. Hey, guys, Chris, we're going to take the week off next week because it's Thanksgiving. I figure you're going to be out chasing big bucks. I know Gene probably got his tree stand ready to rock and roll. Nice buck you caught there in your memories, Big Daddy. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was 151 1/4 inch deer I shot on my dad's property. My dad has 40 acres, and I grew up hunting it, and I didn't hunt much. Once YouTube took off, I have not hunted a lot at all. But he called me and said this was about 6 years before he passed away, and he called me. He's like, "We need meat," and I said, "Okay, I'm going to go," and it was a 2.5 hour drive, and I went there for 3 days, and I shot an 8-point 2 days before that and a doe. And then it was raining that morning. I just went to a spot where I had thrown a pop-up up just to get out of the rain. And the first thing I saw was 14.5 inch G2s coming through the brush. And luckily it turned and came towards me, and I dropped it at 30 yards. And I typically would be hunting with a bow, but that day, because I was meat hunting, I had my rifle with me. I wished I'd have shot him with a bow. Gosh, it would have been awesome. But
yeah. I got 180 acres up there. Me and my dad built a cabin on a mountain here in West Virginia. 12 years ago. He passed away 2 years ago. I haven't been up there since. I got a couple of boys that graduated with my son who go up there and take care of it and hunt up there for him with me now. But I'm going to have to put my tears to the side and go up there and spend some time up there reminiscing with my time up there with him. So, but
right now, what I'm focusing on is just teaching Jordan all that I've known. I've shot 165 deer in my life.
Oh wow!
Mainly because I spent a lot of time helping feed parts of my family who were struggling and people and things like that when I was a teenager, and that's a long story I won't even get into. But I would shoot my tags, I'd shoot his tags, so he had his had meat for his family, and then we just and so I got really good at it, and then once I got married and adult responsibilities caught up with me, I stopped getting the shakes. I no longer got nervous when a deer came out. I just shot it and I was done. And I told myself years ago if I ever got to the point where I no longer had an adrenaline rush, I'd stop doing it. So I pretty much have stopped, and now I'm just teaching Jordan what I know.
Hey, buddy, I'm the 5-0, and now you just told on you. I'm bringing
okay.
I'm gonna extradite you for all those illegal deers. No, I'm just kidding, Big Daddy.
My next door neighbor, my neighbor four doors down was the head game warden over Georgia. So it was
hey, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. I apologize for all the difficulties we had tonight, but I really do appreciate you taking a minute or small amount of your evening to spend with little old me and big old Chris. So God bless you and thank you again.
All right, no problem, man. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, that was tonight's episode of Rusty Hook Kayak Fishing Podcast. We had Gene Jensen on, Chris Payne. I apologize for the feedback and errors. It's getting to be an old tune where I'm having audio problems here with this mic, but we're working on it. We're going to get better. We got a week off next week, so I want to wish all of you all a happy Thanksgiving, and God bless you, and we will see you the first week of December.